Hey guys, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the story behind Dragon of Grace and how it kind of came to be what it is right now. Um, so it actually started off as two separate stories. Maria and Emily were basically in their own universes; they had nothing to do with each other. Um, Maria's story centered around more of the clown shit that happened in 2016, where there was a bunch of clowns running around all over the place. Um, but but the more I thought about it, the more I kind of realized that I wanted um, to make more of a traditional old school like superhero type character who kind of had a bit of modern sensibilities to her. Um, like she doesn't like uh claim to be like the highest paragon of moral virtue like some of these other like old fashioned superheroes did. She's more or less just like presenting herself as someone who's trying her best to do what she can. Um, but as this progressed at the same time, I came up with a story about a young girl whose family was attacked in a cabin by wolves. Where not cabin cottage, sorry. That there's a distinct difference there, but so I came up with that story, which is where Emily came from. And the more I looked at these stories, and the more I realized, like, the better I got at writing, and the more I saw the plot inconsistencies and whatnot, the stories just kind of felt incomplete. So, um, I felt like I could have done more to make them longer. Um, that I could do more to make them longer, and I also thought about how these two characters might kind of cross paths, and so as this went on and I developed the story further, um, initially, um, let's see, yeah, I kind of wanted to do it in like I was taking a lot of influence from youth culture at the time, so this was around the time when in the 90s and early 2000s. This is when like um people were like really starting to interact online through like these messenger programs and everything. America Online and whatever else there was at the time. And um so I decided that I wanted to have kind of a bit of a pre-established relationship between Maria and Emily, and then everything else sort of grew out of that. And as I kept revising um, and editing and figuring out story ideas to make it more creative, um, one of my friends actually suggested I put a bit more of that RPG influence in because I was playing a lot of RPGs at the time, and one of my favorite RPGs of all time was the original Shadow Hearts because for one thing, it's one of the first M-rated RPGs I ever played. Um, I um, I didn't prepare this in advance, so you have to forgive me for that. But I started taking influence from different genres of video games that I really liked growing up and stuff that I still like now. So there's a lot of RPG influence, like some action influence, shooter games like Resident Evil 4 and Doom. Let's see what else. Um, let's see RPGs, action, shooters, um, and horror games, survival horror. But I didn't just want it to be like a carbon copy mesh of all of these things. I wanted it to be something that felt a bit more like my own. So that's how you kind of got the metal references, like bands like Morbid Angel, Excretion, Eucharist. Um, so now you have these characters who some of them have similar interests and others are just kind of more about their own thing, but they're able to function effectively as a unit to get through this terrible, awful situation. Um, and that's where a lot of the horror influence comes in, is the situation that they're in, and then you get more of the dark fantasy stuff, because not only are these characters actually capable of surviving this situation, but they can actually thrive in it. This is sort of what this is like sort of what their entire stories collectively have been leading up to. So it's kind of like the situation was kind of like tailor made for them. Um, so you're kind of seeing my own influence as a writer direct the course of the story. You know what I mean? Um, and that's basically how we got to where we are with what I'm doing now. So I figured, um, something that I was originally gonna do was I was actually going to exclude, like, um, I was going to exclude firearms altogether. But as I've been writing this, it's sort of made more sense to me um, to actually re-include them, because in the situation that's being described in the story, it makes more sense to use every resource at their disposal. So so I've decided to reintroduce a lot of like the action influence um, from some of the other shooter games and action games like Devil May Cry, um, Resident Evil, Doom, um, and some newer ones like Dusk. Um, and I guess that's really about all I have to say about it. So it started off as kind of this mishmash of ideas that's been evolving as I've been writing this story. And it's finally settling on something that I'm actually happy with, because now you get this like combination of deep lore, intense action, um, you know, like RPG style storytelling, with some horror and all that kind of stuff. So I'm happy with the direction that the story is taking. So um, I'll be working on chapter 7 soon. I'm just kind of taking a break right now because we're in the middle of this stupid ass heat wave. So yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to give you guys some insight into how the story turned into what it's become. So I guess that's really all I have to say. So I'll see you guys later.